Yeah, you can wear whatever you want. It's not a big deal. But at the same time, there's definitely still a concept that it's more okay for women to wear whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's more that I don't care what you wear. That's not, like, I'm not going to get up in arms about it too much. Like, unless you're wearing something that's just, like, super racist or super offensive or super whatever. But there's also a point of pride in wearing something that fits your demeanor well, if you will. Like, if you can pull off the look you're wearing, and that applies to anyone. Where it's like there's an act of confidence, and it takes a very certain type of person to pull off. Here's a fun fact number one: skinny people can't do fedoras. Just fact. It's not good. If the diameter of the brim of your hat is bigger than you are, you need to reconsider that hat choice.
So, funny story, last night I was coming home from Federal Way, and I was on the bus, and this guy gets on the bus, and he's wearing, like, a full white suit, white hat, looking like some sort of, like, southern pimp. Or, like, he just came from, like a swing night somewhere, you know? Like,
right.
He was missing the chain, you know? But, yeah, he was just, like, rocking that look, and it's like, you know what? Good for you.
Sure. Like, I very seldom wear white because it just gets dirty and gross, and I don't want to wear it ever again. Like, then it comes that off shade of yellow, and you're just like, ugh. Like,
I hate
the color of age, basically. It's just not. It's not great.
I hate buying shoes. I'm wearing them right now. I hate buying shoes that have white soles on them.
Oh,
because I will walk through pretty much anything, and the last thing I want to do is, like, clean my shoes.
That's fair. That's why I'm in flip-flops 300 days a year, regardless of the weather.
This is true. I've seen it.
I always get chastised, like today. Granted, it's 7 degrees, and it's still a little bit too cold for me, but I'm wearing shorts, and that's my own fault. Also didn't know we'd be recording outside, so oops.
Yeah.
Off topic. I'm assuming our audio is good.
Oh, yeah, the audio's fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like, I wear flip-flops, and I always get shit on by everyone. It's like, you know it's raining. And it's like, yeah, but my feet don't care. Like, what do you think humans did before this? Like, they didn't cower in caves. Like, they did it. And it's the only manly thing I do is step wherever I need to step.
You've got the basic thing that matters, which is you have something under your feet.
Correct.
Because the alternative is just stepping on whatever.
Yeah, it's glassware and earthworms, and I don't want to do either of them.
Yeah. Have you ever done a thing? Have you ever been... First of all, have you ever been camping?
I have not. It's actually my partner really wants to take... I will rephrase. My partner's dad wants to take me camping. He's a Marine, ex-Marine.
Oh, that kind of camping.
Yeah, that kind of camping. Like the one where, like, you couldn't identify it on a map, like no campsites, none of that shit. And I'm like, yeah, something came up. I can't go this year. Like,
I mean, you should do it just once.
I will do it once. Like,
Yeah.
anytime I say I won't do a thing, I'll probably do it once.
I would recommend doing it before you're 30.
Yeah, that gives me a handful of years. This many years.
I'm not going to tell anyone what that number was.
It was 27. Well, actually, the
He
number
has
was
27
3.
years.
I'm 3.
He
Depending
is-
on the metric.
Ben is 3. He's a very deep-voiced 3-year-old. He's very good at speaking.
Baby genius. It's a biography, if you didn't know that.
All right, you want to jump into this?
Yeah, I mean, we already have. Like, that's pretty much how we do it.
Well, let's put a moment of silence in it.
Theme song here.
All right, so it's John
And it's Ben.
and no Andrew today. We're all kind of like working with weird schedules, and I figured this would be a good time to have a sort of like a one-on-one with Ben.
Yeah, we've had episodes before where it's been me and you, but it's always been about a specific thing. Like, I think the last time was debriefing E3.
Oh,
if I remember
yeah.
correctly.
Yes. Well, I felt like this would be a good time to talk about, like, why is it that Ben goes to things like E3 and GDC, and, like, you know, what is your background? What kind of I don't know, history do you have? Why are you on the show?
Right. And in lieu of taking a personality test, I figured you would just ask me questions that you most likely know the answers to, but they don't know as much.
Who are we talking about?
The people who listen. So, counting. Hold on. Actually, I don't know. I subscribed to us on iTunes. I realized I wasn't subscribed to us on iTunes. So you got another +1, whatever the number happens to
Hey,
be.
everybody, tell your friends, because the reality is I don't show up on any podcast thing, even though I'm on them. Because funny story about those searches, you can type in the exact name of the show and it's not going to show up.
Yeah, it's not. Because it
because
searches by keywords. It actually doesn't search by title.
it searches by keywords. It also searches by popularity.
Right.
So we have not reached the subscription base that will reach out to the search engines to be like, hey, here's the show that you're looking for. It's like, no, you actually have to put in the goddamn URL, which is why I suggest you go to gggames.org.
I can just write a bunch of Twitter bots and do it for us. Like, that's fine.
I mean, yeah, we could do that. But I want it to be organic.
I mean, sure, but I'm also not against getting a leg up.
Yeah.
But again, if something goes wrong, you're the one with the legal ramifications. I just don't have a podcast anymore.
Anyway, Ben,
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about video games that you liked growing up,
Okay.
and sort of like what helped shape your taste in video games.
Okay, let's do the TLDR as much as I can to avoid kind of going like, here's the game I played like every single time. Let's just do the quick ones. Like, first game I remember, I think it was 2 or 3, fairly young, was Super Mario Brothers 3. It was on the All-Star cartridge for the SNES.
Oh yeah.
I think at the time my family didn't have an NES at all. I don't know if we ever did, actually. But yeah, so I played a bunch of that, played a bunch of Super Mario Kart. I probably beat Super Mario RPG for the SNES no short of 23, 24 times. Like, it's just something I just loved going back to it and going back to it and going back to it. Oddly enough, never got into Final Fantasy. I never fell in love with that universe as a child.
You know, I always act like I really like Final Fantasy. I like the idea of Final Fantasy.
Sure.
When it comes down to it, I still maintain that the only RPG that Square has ever made that I really truly loved to death is Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, I was gonna say Chrono Trigger. Never played.
I have played through that game so many times, and I may have already said this on the show. I don't remember, but like, I love that game.
I mean, you have, and there's a counter somewhere, but no one's keeping track. But yeah, so my first system was the N64. I got it as a Christmas gift when I was 6? 96 it came out, right? Then I would have been 6. Yeah, so I got it then. I played a ton of Super Mario 64, and Wave Race were my first 2 games. And that was when my father, like, tried to keep up with my hobby, because he's a good dad. He is and was and will ever be until he's dead, in which case he can't dad very well anymore. But I remember he tried to be like, try to keep up with video games and stuff like that, and he just didn't have the dexterity for it. Didn't have like because I mean, that's new to anyone at this stage of the game, is having 2 hands and multiple, and the N64 controller is not the most user intuitive device. Fit for my tiny baby hands just fine though. But I had an N64 growing up, and then basically just one after the other. I was always excuse me. I was always Nintendo until when did I even get my first Sony anything or Xbox anything?
I would have to believe that your first Sony was probably a PlayStation 2, because that's the one everyone had.
No, it was actually PlayStation 3.
Oh my God.
Is when I started working at GameStop after just at the last tail end of college number 1. I've been to multiple colleges. But yeah, when I started working there, I was like, yeah, like, they had a sale for like $100. So I was like, cool, PS3, fantastic. And then I got a PS2 after someone tried trading it in a PS2, and then we didn't take it, so they just left it at the counter. So it's just like, is this mine now? It's like, well, technically it's trash, air quotes, trash.
I mean, technically it probably belonged to someone that wasn't the person trying to sell it to you.
We got that a lot. We got that a ton. I mean, we did the responsible thing, ethics people. We kept it in the back for a long time to make sure like no one would come in and claim it. Like, did someone take this? Like a family member or whatever? And no. And so eventually it went out to trash, and trash happened to be the trunk of my car.
Yeah, he's doing hard air quotes.
Oh, like super hard.
The weird thing is he did trunk in air quotes too, which is just fucking bizarre.
Oh, I didn't even realize I did that.
You didn't.
God damn it. But yeah, so that, and then I kind of, for the Sony, I went backwards in time. So I got the PS3, then PS2, then PS1, or PS first, PS Uno,
PSX, actually.
PSX. Oh, and then Xbox was in there too. I forget when I got it. I just know I got it for whatever reason. I had all of 4 or 5 games on it. Wasn't particularly my jam. I fell in love with the GameCube. I think I still have like 100 titles for the GameCube still. I never throw away anything, games or anything of the sort. So I still have all my collection because my parents were nice and kept all of it. They had always threatened like, oh, if you got this system, you have to get rid of the old one. And they'd always just like put it in storage. And I found it like 2 days later. So it wasn't a problem.
Nice.
They were great people. I'm going to take that on to my family when I get a family. I need a family. If you can rent me a family so I can have these experiences.
Well, you don't want rental families. Rental families are the worst.
What would be a rental family equivalent?
I guess foster care?
Foster. Oof.
Ugh. Moving on.
Yep. You decide to keep that in or not. That's up to you.
So earlier you mentioned Super Mario Kart. And
I did. Yeah.
I know for a fact that you have a bit of a history with Mario Kart.
I do. I'm the greatest player of all time. This is a fact. But to actually answer your question in some capacity, I had the world record in Mario Kart Wii for a bit of time. A couple weeks, because I remember it was always a game that me and my friends played in college, and we'd always just have a few beers and just have a drink and do all that sort of stuff. And it got to the point where we ran like all 36 checks, if I remember correctly, and we just kind of compared the times. Yeah, it wasn't 36. It's some number X. But we ran them and we kind of summed the time up. And we're like, oh, that's actually pretty close to the record. So I got bored and I pursued it for a little bit. Then I finally ended up getting it. And I submitted it, got approved. And then I was a world record holder for 2 weeks. Put that on a resume.
Was that your GameStop resume?
No, well, I mean, I used that for that one too. But they didn't care much about, like, because my resume was a combination of, like, here's all the programming I know. Here's all the classes I took. Here's why I'm a good college student, which is funny because I dropped out of college. And then here is like this extra fun fact. And every time I'd bring up the extra fun fact to like programming people, like financial companies or whatever, they're like, oh, that's dumb. Moving on. And then that wasn't even the thing that got me hired at GameStop. It was because I just shot the shit with the manager at the time about Borderlands 2 for an hour. He's like, oh, like, have you worked retail? I was like, yeah. He's like, cool. Fuck it. Hired. Great. Standards.
Super rigorous.
Pretty much. But yeah, and then I wanted to recapture that at some point, and then Mario Kart 8 came out. I didn't play much on the 3DS, actually. I'm not big on mobile, because I don't keep it in my pockets enough. Like, I hate having bulky pockets.
Yeah.
I feel like a pickpocket target.
I mean, that's why you wear cargo pants, though. Like,
well, I don't normally wear cargo pants or cargo shorts at all.
I used to wear them constantly.
Oh, no, I'm very much blue jeans. Blue jeans, sandals, hoodie of some color or another, and then glasses. And like that's pretty much a good summary. Not even socks. Hardly jewelry. My wedding ring, which isn't on today. Oh, whoops.
Uh-oh.
She'll forgive me.
So how did you and I meet?
If I recall, it was at Hi-Fi when Hi-Fi was a thing. Sorry.
Rip.
Yeah, a little bit. And I think it's just one of those, like, either you were in a conversation or you just, like, sat down next to me and we just started talking about things. And there's, like, mutual interest. And I think I mentioned how I go to school at DigiPen and you were a graduate of DigiPen. And therefore, that's kind of how it stuck. And we just kept meeting and then friends. And
so did we meet during one of the Smash Brother nights, one of the Brackets and Brews nights?
I don't think it was explicitly that. That's actually where I met Andrew, was at a Smash Brothers night. And I felt bad because I didn't remember his name for the first 2 months.
Neither did I. It's fine.
I think I met him 3 times. So I was like, hey, I'm Ben. He's like, I know. And I was like, my bad, dude. Like, I'm awful with names. No, I think us was just a random Tuesday, probably. It was a lot more quiet, I remember that. Because the Smash Brothers nights at Hi-Fi, at the beginning of it, were sort of ridiculously packed.
Mm-hmm.
It dwindled out a bit, and then it spiked up again towards the latter end of the brewery's career.
Yeah, so if you're listening at home, just imagine a brewery that is... it's a decent-sized brewery. Like, it on any normal night, there'd probably be somewhere between, 10 to, at most, 20 people there at a time.
Yeah.
And then on Smash Brothers nights, suddenly there were about 50 to 80 people.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say 80. 80 is pretty high, but it definitely got up to 50s pretty comfortably.
It would just be a lot of people standing around not buying the namesake of the establishment they were in and randomly shouting.
Yeah, no, it's not like I love the community to a degree.
Absolutely.
It's definitely, I remember being real salt. There's one incident where we were doing bracket matchups, and the tournament organizer, his name's Beard, his nickname, and he announced me versus another guy, and the other guy was like, "Yeah, free win." I was just like, "You're right, but fuck off. Let me try at least." I lost a lot.
So you kind of ended up on the show kind of as a joke at first, because you just showed up while Andrew and I were recording and started talking about professional wrestling.
Yeah, I don't remember how that conversation started. I just know that you guys would always record in the back. And then I just came on and just started shooting the shit about wrestling a lot. And then it just became like, hey, like, you're a friend who also speaks well. Like, you should be on the show. I was like, man, our standards are high for this fucker, but sure, let's do it.
You're mildly articulate.
Yeah. Sometimes I slur my words, but it's usually the alcohol. But yeah, no, that's kind of how we started, and we've just taken a breath of topics from there.
Yeah,
that's right. I always have to pause between depth and breadth, just to make sure I didn't mix them up, and I'm correct.
So, one of the reasons that we added you onto the show was just because it became. I thought it'd be funny to like have Ben pop in and occasionally just throw in weird professional wrestling facts while like one of us went to the bathroom or something like that.
I will always find a way to tie it in. I promise you.
And then we got on the topic of movies and realized Ben hasn't seen most movies.
Anything.
And then we decided it'd be really funny to show him Star Wars, because it was like the most egregious thing that you had not seen any of the Star Wars films at that point.
Yeah.
Except for, I think you had already seen Rogue One.
I'd seen Rogue One. It was my first Star Wars movie, and I did not like it.
Which is great, because it's like a true prequel to the original Star Wars film.
Yeah, no, it sets up a good foundation for me watching these films. Like, I didn't like the prequel, which is the 7th, which is this dumb timeline, but sure, why not?
It's kind of bizarre to build a film that is running under the assumption, it takes place right before the first film, but runs under the assumption that the average person who's watching it has a certain amount of reverie for what's going on.
Well, yeah, they've established the franchise is at the point, like, they can rely on, like, even the most moderate of fan bases to be like, yeah, no, we're going to make our money back. Like, the new one coming out, Hope, a Solo Story, or Solo, a Hope, whatever the hell it is.
The Solo.
Yeah, that one. Like, by all metrics, by every other podcast I listen to, it's apparently not going to be as great.
It's okay.
I understand.
So here's my take on it. Now this is being recorded before the movie comes out.
Yeah.
It is the biggest pile of meh that is going to make a ton of money, because there are enough people out there that will just watch every Star Wars thing and still see it.
Well, that's the point. It's no matter if you put Star Wars on any movie title, it's going to make its money back.
For now.
Eventually that'll die out, maybe, depending on how the next few movies go. But again, like, you're coming from someone, like, I got onto the show because I had seen nothing. And it's to the point where I knew a handful of, like, the references. Like, I knew what a Luke was. I didn't know what a Millennium Falcon was. That's true. I knew some of the main characters. I knew that Yoda showed up in Soul Calibur for some fucking reason.
He's the little green guy.
I hate universe crossovers. A lot. We've talked about this. But yeah, no, I hadn't seen it. And John's like, hey, do you want to see a Star Wars? And I was like, yeah, well, let's see a Star Wars. That's fine. And then you cheekily named it Ben Sees a Star Wars, and we kind of took it off from there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm actually looking forward, because the next episode we're going to do is technically a Ben Sees.
Yeah.
We're going to have you watch The Highlander.
The Highlander.
Which I don't know if you know anything about that universe whatsoever.
No.
So,
at all.
And we'll go more in depth with that when we actually record the episodes.
No, but it's fascinating, and this is the point you're gonna get to, is that, like, despite me, like, identifying as a nerd and, like, trying to, like, I'm fairly adept at video game references and gaming references in general, but movies and comics and other mediums like that, not a damn clue. Nothing. and it's mostly a product of me just not wanting to see it growing up. And like my parents were also not a nerdy type by any means. I was very much the antithesis of my family as far as like nerd culture versus just like I don't want to say regular Midwest culture, but a little bit.
Well, and that leads into an interesting thing because, like, back to the idea where it's like you pick up enough about Star Wars just through social osmosis.
Yeah.
The same thing is professional wrestling for me.
Sure.
Where it's like I knew some of the names of the wrestlers. I knew a bit of the shtick, mostly related to like 90s era professional wrestling.
Yeah, like you
like pre WWE, WWF.
Right. You definitely knew like Attitude Era characters. So like we're talking like The Rock, like Steve Austin, Chris Jericho, The Undertaker, Kane. I'm assuming those are the big five.
No, the thing is, you're being pretty generous here because I didn't know who Kane was.
Oh, really?
I didn't know who Jericho was.
Huh.
Mine goes even earlier than that, where it was like you got the Hart you got the Harts.
You're the Hart brothers, yeah.
And you've got the Undertaker,
yep.
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, sure.
And of course, Randy Savage.
Yeah, Randy Savage, sure.
So, like, that era of professional wrestling was my forte.
Yeah.
And I say that loosely because really no era of wrestling is my forte. These were just, like, things that you pick up when you're a child and everyone else is really into a thing that you're not into.
Yeah, it's a survival trick in high school and grade school where it's like you latch on to whatever the cool kids are talking about. You're like, and just have a conversation. Just do your best. Like for me, who was growing up, it was sports, where I pretended to know anything about baseball at all. Where like I could name some of the teams, but not where they're from. I could tell you something about the St. Louis Cardinals, and I knew that Mark McGwire was a star pitcher. That's right, batter. Before he got busted with steroids. I don't know if I told you this story where it was either the World Series or it was World Series or what's the football one? Super Bowl.
Yes.
That one. Yeah.
The big game.
Yeah, I'm good at sports. Anyway, it was a Super Bowl. The Rams won from whatever fucking year it was. I think it was 2000. And they made all of us like, I think I was in 3rd or 5th grade, somewhere in that range. And it's the Midwest winter. And you grew up in the Midwest. Are you familiar with it?
I didn't grow up there.
But you know it.
I was incubated and born there. I did not grow up there.
It's in your blood. It matters. So it's probably like 2 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and we're in the middle of an actual cornfield, and they make us all take cardboard, like colored cardboard, and do the thing where each person raises it above their head to get like a pixel form of the shape of the logo or whatever.
God damn.
We were out there for 5 fucking hours while they're trying to line all of us up, so a goddamn like skycopter can like take a picture of all of us like making the damn Rams logo. And I swear to God, 3 kids got frostbite from that whole experience, or at least got the flu.
It's the best day of my life.
It was. I was on the news for 3 seconds. It was awesome. Don't ask me which one I was. I was one of the little like nerdy white dudes. I can tell you that much, but I couldn't tell you anything else past that. So that's my interest in sports. Anyway, back to professional wrestling, real sports for real people.
So tell me what is your like fascination with professional wrestling?
So we've discussed this. I've hinted at this on different episodes of the podcast before. I treat wrestling. Everyone. Okay, look. Like, don't give me the speech like, yeah, it's fake. I get it. What's your favorite game show or what's your favorite television show? It's Game of Thrones. I don't say it's fake. Like, we agree.
Wait, what?
Shut it. We agree that we are going to pay our ticket of disbelief to enjoy this thing. But for a lot of people, they have a really hard time doing that with professional wrestling. And that's fair. But I think what really clicked for me is that the second you liken it to theater, like if you're going to like a Shakespeare play where everything happens in the one stage, and the one stage in this case happens to be like the ring or the arena, if you want to expand it out that far. And you think of it less of like, oh, it's an actor playing this character. If you treat it as the characters themselves, you're not that far off from being like in a Tekken or like in a Soul Calibur. It's like, this person has no business beating up this person, but yet we play fighting games where we have a Hollywood movie star beating up a god who can take souls. Like, and no one bats an eye. That's like, oh, that's normal in Mortal Kombat. Well, it's normal in wrestling too. You gotta pay that ticket. You gotta pay your entry fee and your disbelief. That's the 2 you get. And once you do that, it's just fun. If you forget that it's dumb, it's real fun.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I will go on about it a lot. I've always called it the art form that you're not watching. Because you're not, and everyone should be.
Well, I think
a lot of people should be.
I think one of the things that confuses a lot of people is just that in the case of professional wrestling, like with a video game, like you mentioned, Soul Calibur, Tekken, something like that.
Right.
The moment the fight's over, it's like, that's pretty much it. There's nothing else.
Sure.
Whereas with wrestling, like there's a lot of, like the personalities exist outside of the arena as well. Like they kind of like, it's not breaking the fourth wall, but it's definitely like they make sure that you're aware of these personalities, what they're doing when they're not in the ring as well.
Sure. I mean, like, this goes, like, if you're on the show, or if they're, like, now they're making a big push for, like, Instagram and Twitter and being in character for that.
Oh, no.
No, it depends, right? Like, it's a weird job to have, I imagine, if you're a professional wrestler, that you kind of you're stuck in the character whether you want to be or not. So let's say you're just a generic men's wrestler, and you're just going, like, you did your show and you're the bad guy or whatever, and you've lost because you're the bad guy and you should lose because that's how the story goes. And then you just go to the airport and you go back home to see your family. Then you just have people, like, at the terminal, like, booing you or, like, calling you out. This happened a lot in the early 2000s, like when the Attitude Era was very prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays it's very much like thumb on nose, like, yes, I know this is fake, and sometimes, like, fans will just give them shit for the sake of doing it, for the sake of, like, jokes, which a lot of you are awkward. Most people are awkward and can't pull off those dynamics very well.
Rule of thumb to everyone who might ever listen to this: don't pick on an actor for working a role.
Yeah, it's bad form. It's bad taste. Like,
it sucks.
I'll extend it even further. Let's say that this has happened. This is coming up a lot, where people are picking actors who don't, like, racially or ethnically fit the role they're supposed to play. That's not the actor or actress's fault necessarily.
I mean, on the flip side, it is really cool when an actor or actress steps up and is like, you know what, I'm not going to take this role because I believe in this.
That's absolutely fair. I am not doubting that. But people got to get paid.
Yeah.
Like, money counts. Even if you have a lot of money, you still want to make more money. I get that.
A big one that came up recently was the guy who plays as the Iron Fist. And I apologize, I don't remember the actor's name. But that's part of the thing. Is like, we're not talking about Nicolas Cage or even bigger, like Robert Downey Jr. or someone like that.
Sure.
Like a known face. This is a guy that no one knows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, he was offered an acting gig and he just constantly gets shat on for it. And it's like, it's not really his fault.
Yeah, I mean, it's so.
Like, and I know we're just two white dudes shouting on a bench right now, but
got it. Subtitle. But no, it's a fair point, and to tie it back a little bit, like, wrestling fans are no different. They're a little bit of a different. I hesitate to use the word breed necessarily, but it's a different kind of fan, if you will. Well, it used to be back in the day, like, I used to be really ashamed about being a professional wrestling fan. Like, I picked it back up in college around 2010. And I remember I'd be so ashamed of it that, like, my door to my bedroom would never lock. And my roommates would always be drunk. So they just always, like, barge in whenever they wanted, because that's just how college operated when you're 20 and stupid.
Because you had some cool roommates.
I had some, well, they were actually good guys, but, you know, privacy issues aside. And I remember being so ashamed that, like, I would switch my monitor from professional wrestling to porn. Be like, this is more normal. Like, this is what normal people do. They're like, why are you watching porn with clothes on? It's like, I'm just you know, studying for film reels or I don't know, some dumb shit. But no, like, professional wrestling got me back in 2011, and I've just kind of stuck with it since. And I guess it's something that I've grown older. Just like, I'm not really ashamed of things that I like anymore. And that's just a thing that happens when you become an adult. Or, like, I say adult. So you're 18. You're not an adult. You're 25. You're getting there. I'm 27. That's the perfect age. You just figured out that you shouldn't be upset or ashamed of the things that you are interested in, unless it's something illegal. In which case, why is it illegal? And then reconsider your moral compass.
Fair enough.
I have to put, like, the little asterisk, like, this is not an excuse to be into super fucked up shit.
I mean, right there, you're just kind of reading into the people who follow letter of the law versus the people who always read between the lines on everything.
Yeah, I'm a liberal Democrat. I'm very much a between the lines sort of person.
See, for me, it goes either way. Like, if for instance, if someone says that they're going to go to the grocery store and pick up eggs,
right,
and they go to the grocery store and pick up eggs plus other things, I'm not gonna be like, but you said you're getting eggs. You didn't say anything else about this. Or I guess a better example is someone says they're going to go to the grocery store, and then they go to the grocery store, and then they do other things.
Right.
And it turns out that the other things that they were going to do are things that I probably would have wanted to do.
Sure.
And then getting frustrated because they didn't make it known up front that they were going to do other things while they're out, you know?
Well, I guess for me, like, I've never understand a very literalist interpretation of art or of law or of anything like this. Because, like, when you read a book, you're not sitting there and just, like, reading the words at face value. There's obviously, like, metaphor that goes on. Like, there's obviously symbolism that goes on that's built in between the lines. Like, if you're a literalist, like, you just assume... Like, what's a good example of something that's metaphorical? Like, has a metaphorical meaning, but the literal meaning is dumb? The first thing that comes to mind is Great Gatsby, but I don't even know if that's true or not.
I don't know, man. I can't pull something out of my butt right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm not a literature specialist either.
But the fact of the matter remains that a person who takes everything literally must always be surprised by reality. That's
an interesting, like, sort of quote. Because it's true. It's one of those, like, I didn't expect that. It's like, well, because that's not how reality works. And that's not how any art form should work. That's not how you should enjoy the things you should enjoy. And that's the only time I will ever say that sentence. Because I feel like you're restricting yourself out of, like, appreciating a thing on a different plane. Like, a different reason to enjoy the thing. Which, like, I enjoy, to tie it all back, I enjoy wrestling for two reasons. One is the theater aspect of it. And two is, like, the actual athleticism involved with some of that stuff is nonsense. Like, it's ridiculous what people can do. Like, I can't do a 630 flip. Like, that's not a thing that humans do. But these people do it day in and day out, and they don't die. Like, if I could just do a backflip right now, I would. But I won't have a neck if I do that.
Yeah, or a life.
Or a life. Or a really bad life, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, tie that one back in.
No, so... A lot of the episodes that we do or have planned to do are things that Andrew and I just kind of like either plan ahead of time or come up with in the moment.
Yeah.
Are there any like movies or games or any other topics that you'd like us to just kind of like jump into?
So, I mean, I always have my running joke when people ask me, because we had this discussion about like, so you don't see any movies. I was like, well, that's true. For a few different reasons. And they ask like, cool, like, so what are your favorite movies? And I always respond with Rush Hour, Rush Hour 2, and Happy Gilmore. Easily top 3. For reasons that I'm not even entirely sure. I'm just saying, I joked with you one time about starting my own podcast where I would just watch Rush Hour every day for a year. But I wouldn't mind doing like Rush Hour, the podcast. Because I fucking love, like, yes, we have agree to disagree, but we can do agree and hella agree, and why you're not agreeing enough. But truthfully, like, I don't know of a lot of mediums or a lot of stuff that you guys haven't done that I have. Just because, like, I'm the one who's restricted in this category. Yeah, there's wrestling, but Andrew's kind of there. He's like the middle ground. Mm-hmm. He's like the parent who tries to play along. Actually, you're the parent who tries to play along.
Yes.
He's the younger brother. He's like, I want to participate too. And it's like, I got you, man. Like, here's the second controller. It's not plugged in, but you can be right there with me, buddy. Like, that sort of thing. He does his best.
We'll see what he has to say about that.
Yeah, maybe don't show him that part.
This is actually a good test. Let's see if Andrew actually listens to the podcast. So,
Andrew, next time you see me, the secret number is 3134. If you say that to me, I'll know you have listened to the podcast.
Or just call him an asshole.
I'll just call him that's many reasons to call me an asshole. Like, I am an asshole. There's no getting around this.
Anyway, I think that should be good.
Yeah, if you want to call it there, I'm an open book. If you always want to do a round 2 or anything of the sort, I know you got to go through Andrew, and then I have to interview Andrew, and then Andrew interviews you. Then it's a triangle.
No, let's not worry about equality on this. Jesus. Or rather, equilibrium is more of a better term for that. Like, just because I do something doesn't mean you guys have to do it too.
Reciprocation is the word you're going for.
Yeah. All right, that sounds good.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm bad at ending stuff. So I'm going to let you do it.
Bye.
That was real clever.